Greetings, Internet! Welcome to episode number 154 of the Comic Watchers Show. I'm your host, Matt. With me, as always, is Mighty Mike Akins. How the heck are you, sir?
Man, I'm good, dude.
Listen,
he's a little cold over here on the East Coast, but we're good.
Okay. We're up and down. It's cold in the morning, decent in the afternoon, and yeah, we got snow blowing in on Saturday for one day only.
Yeah,
So,
I think we're scheduled for like 0.3 inches. So we plan on shutting down at least for 6 months. We're going to call FEMA and everything because the Mid-Atlantic region has no idea how to deal with snow. None whatsoever.
I got you.
None.
Well, so it goes.
Yeah, right.
So, to compliment last week's glowing and positive episode about things that we loved in 2021.
A lot of good stuff to talk about.
It was a lot of good stuff to talk about. Yeah. And, if we'd gone on for 3 hours, we probably still would not have gotten through everything.
No.
But we did want to go, and we're not going to just go negative here, but we did want to talk about things that we didn't care for, or things that we wish comics or comics culture could have done better in 2021. And, we'll get to it. Yeah. So let's, right off the rip, let's get some low-hanging fruit. Let's talk about this dumbassery of the Phoenix Force being Thor's mom now. This is just dumb. And look, I get it if you don't like Jason Aaron's Avengers run. Pardon me. It's been some of his, I don't know if sloppy is the right word, but it's just been like he's been going through and blindly pulling Jason Aaron levers. And, that comes off as a mix of dialing it in to a degree and just sort of like, well, this crazy thing sounds cool. Let's just run wild with it. And this kind of hit its low point this last year with the Phoenix fighting story out of nowhere, where for 5 issues, we had yet another Marvel story of superheroes fighting each other, and it was all out of nowhere so that somebody could be the wielder of the Phoenix Force, or whatever. And then it was Echo. It's just also dumb. Echo's a great character on her own, right? Yeah. You don't have to give her the Phoenix Force to make people interested in her. She is a disabled superhero. Look, you've had Daredevil for almost 60 years doing this, only he's blind, not deaf. And there's an audience, clearly. Mm-hmm. And, but the low point of it was that stupid revelation where the Phoenix Force is somehow Thor's mom instead of Freya, which is just stupid and needless. And it's, I don't know, it doesn't fit into anything that Jason Aaron did in the 7 years he was on Thor.
No.
And I don't know, it's almost like a different person is writing Thor in Avengers than was writing Thor for 7 years when it comes to Aaron's approach to Thor. He's more buffoonish,
right,
and more of a punchline.
Yeah, and
one-dimensional.
Sure, and I mean, all points you made are absolutely on point. To me, that whole run screams editor involvement. I think nothing about Aaron's run on Avengers, particularly that story arc, screams Jason Aaron. And I think this is the case of, Marvel wanting to kind of step off, do something a little crazy, a little sketchy, and kind of see if it works. And I think this is one of those things where in a meeting, in that 10 o'clock pre-lunch meeting, in the boardroom, it sounded great. And then when they executed it, it wasn't Jason Aaron's not a bad writer by any stretch of the means. It wasn't
No,
bad.
he's written some outstanding comics in his time.
Right. But I just think the execution of it I just think the execution of it was just bad. The idea of it was bad.
Yeah, it was. And it didn't help. And, I'm not going to throw any artists under the bus. I cannot honestly remember who the artists and colorists were for this story, but it doesn't help that every page of it looks identical. It's white and it's orange. Right? Like every issue looks identical to the previous one.
Yeah,
and it
was really no difference.
It was just so poorly executed and unnecessary. And for God's sake, we've been sitting on this subplot of the Avengers of 2 million BCE or whatever for 5 fucking years. And it still is just barely bearing any fruit whatsoever. And I just like, dude, get to the damn point. Yeah. I know when he took Avengers over, his whole remit was, I want every arc to feel like an event comic. Well, okay. That means you have to come up with a quote unquote event comic level crisis for every arc. Now, you know who did do that? Grant Morrison and Howard Porter on JLA. And they did it right. Yeah. That's I mean, there's a reason that run has stood the test of time. Yeah. Because everything is big and everything continuously tops what happens before. Whereas Jason Aaron's version of that same thing is just them tripping into one crisis after the next and 100,000 subplots just dangling along. And they might eventually get resolved. Like they finally got She-Hulk back to normal. Yay. Right. Woo. And actually that is woo. But it's just been such a haphazard slapdash approach to the Avengers. And really that Phoenix Force story is kind of, to me, Aaron's run in a nutshell.
Yeah. And the overall, I'm going to say his whole run wasn't bad. Decent.
It's still going.
But I just think that Phoenix Force arc, it is just bad execution. I think the ingredients were there. I think everything was there. I just think
it was a 2-issue story.
Yeah, it just
the 5.
Yeah, and like I said, the ingredients were there. It just missed. It just wasn't there.
It just wasn't necessary either, because there's all these other subplots going on. Whatever, the new Star Brand that's a baby, the Avengers, the stuff with Mephisto. There's plenty to do. We don't need to sidebar to a kung fu tournament of superheroes wielding the Phoenix Force with their action figure variant Phoenix Force costumes, right?
Right.
No, this wasn't necessary. Right. This was Marvel at their most marvelous.
No,
in a bad way.
Yeah.
And I don't like it. Now, and look, I've said a lot of negative about Jason Aaron's run. It's been very up and down for me.
Sure.
And like, it's almost like every other arc has been, hey, this is fun. I'm enjoying this. Or, oh my God, what are you thinking? Right. So I liked the vampire stuff.
Yeah.
I like the idea of the vampires manipulating Dracula rather manipulating everyone so that he can get a vampire nation in the ruins of Chernobyl. That's actually pretty brilliant, because radiation, not an issue for vampires.
No,
that's pretty damn smart, actually. I actually liked World War She-Hulk.
Yeah.
That had a really fun twist there at the end, and I actually liked the fact that it brought all of that older stuff with Namor to the forefront and resolved that as well.
Right.
I liked Thor getting turned into a brood out in space. That was fun. But man, it's just like, I wish he would take time to slow down a little between the crises and resolve some of these plot points and then move into the next one. Because, his Thor run wound up being 7 freaking years. And for the most part, it's like a B+, A- run.
Oh, absolutely. It has its mark in the Thor lore.
Like you got Simonson, you've got Kirby, and then you've got Jason Aaron. I
Yeah.
mean, he knocked the Jurgens run out of the 3 spot for me,
For sure.
which is saying something because I love that run so much. But yeah, this Jason Aaron, I hope. I mean, he's never going to hear this, but I hope he brings this all together in a meaningful way in
Sure.
the end, and like all of these seemingly disparate parts finally come together, and we don't have any more weird sidebars like we did with the Phoenix fighting force or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's all I have to say about that. Okay. Next on our list of things that we wanted to talk about.
Moving on.
Oh my gosh, we're gonna talk about internet discourse.
Oh
No, I'm just kidding. That's well, we might get there, but we don't have enough liquor for that. And this is a family show, so
how far is Oklahoma from Virginia Beach? Are we close enough? Can I stop over or?
No, not immediately. I mean, you're welcome to come hang out with me anytime.
Sure.
Let's actually, one of the things we really should talk about is the and this does actually have to do with internet discourse, but the Snyder Cut Cult.
Oh, those guys.
This is the nastiest, most toxic crap I've seen outside of Comicsgate. And I mean, most of them are Comicsgaters, or at least that type. But,
some of them are, yeah. Some of them, like when you start clicking on, because I have a bad habit of clicking on profiles and then falling down the CG Twitter.
Oh no, gosh.
And oh God, I bring it on myself. But the thing is, I mean, I just don't get it, because even the first iteration of the movie was just okay.
And yeah, it was like a 5 out of 10 at best.
Yeah, and it's like the parts I've seen of the Snyder Cut it's once again, it's just okay. It would be different if it was like night and day, but it's I don't know. It's just me.
I mean, okay, just looking at end result products. Okay,
yeah.
So the theatrical cut, I mean, it's got the reputation of feeling like a Frankenstein hybrid of 2 very different directors' visions.
Sure.
And it is. Like, Joss Whedon and Zack Snyder could not possibly be further apart from one another in terms of style. So comparatively speaking, the Snyder Cut is tonally consistent from start to finish. The problem is its tone is like a 13-year-old edgelord. And it's about as subtle too.
Yeah.
And it has about the same maturity and understanding of the DC characters and their universe as does the 13-year-old edgelord. And so that, that's, and, we did a whole episode about the Snyder Cut. Yeah. I don't want to rehash all of that, but the forces that basically bullied Warner Brothers online into investing in this monstrosity, and it is a monstrosity. Like, it is an abhorrent twisting of what DC and those characters are, just flat out.
Yeah.
But the forces, the bullying, the chasing people around online and trolling them, and just that whole, and then they got what they wanted, Mike, and they still weren't happy.
Right, and they still bitched and moaned about it.
Snyderverse started trending. It's like, would you shut up?
Yeah. And and I get it, fandoms are gonna fandom. And I love the convictions of the different fandoms. I really, really do.
I do, until they start becoming assholes.
Right. Until the toxicity comes. Like, you no longer can sit here and talk civil and negative about something. Like if you didn't like a part of a movie or you didn't like part of a book or whatever, and all of a sudden you're getting jumped on, and it's like, well, wait a second, I never said anything like that. And then pretty soon, this person, shares whatever, and all of a sudden you got all these Snyder cultists. Listen, it's okay if I didn't like the Snyder Cut movie, it's fine, but they really took on and I know I'm gonna get probably because we got some viewers happening, jumping in, but they really remind me of that Star Wars X-Men type of fan base to where if you start speaking out about something, it's wrong. It doesn't matter what your take is, it's wrong.
Yeah.
You know, and it was just like they made it not fun. You know, they made it like I don't even want to watch
Zack Snyder does not know how to make a quote unquote fun movie anyway.
You know,
I don't know why his loyal fanboy acolytes would be any different in their personalities, right?
And what's funny is I see this on Twitter, and if you start clicking on, you know, profiles and stuff, you see like profiles like that are anti-CG and stuff. And by rights, you should always be anti-CG.
Oh yeah, unless you're a flaming pile of turd.
Sure, don't step on the bag. Unless you're CG, then you can step on the bag. But you got these people that are anti-CG, and they're sharing CG tweets because they're in the same Snyder cult.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, wait a second.
There's all this just gross overlap, right?
Right. And it's like, you're sitting here going, wait a second. You're anti this, but you're sharing tweets because you guys are in the same Snyder thing. And it's just, like you said, they literally bullied a company to make the movie. And that's
a bad precedent.
Right. And it's
like, you remember a couple years ago
movie.
And you remember a couple of years ago when this first happened, and the first trailer for the live-action Sonic the Hedgehog movie came out.
Right, yeah.
And the fan backlash online was so strong that the company was like, oh, wow, we're going to listen to the fans and do this right. That was bad.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to deny we got a better-looking Sonic the Hedgehog out of it, but that set a bad precedent, and I have to wonder if the Snyder Cut fandom wasn't emboldened by that, and wasn't emboldened by the strength that the toxic fandom in Star Wars had when it came to the backlash against Episode 8, and like there's just all this nastiness and negativity when it comes to the online discourse.
Right.
And it is coalescing into a force that it shouldn't.
Yeah.
And that's not good for anyone.
No, and I want to say this, and for the folks that are watching this and the folks that are going to watch this, like, we're not saying that you can't be a fan of something and express your concern for a good product that you want to support. But when you start turning your dislike into toxicness, that's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
That's a huge problem. It's one thing to order food and go, well, I really don't like it. This undercooked. Can you just have the cook to reheat it? Do something. It's another thing to not like your food, throw the plate across the restaurant, and set the building on fire. And that's what these people are doing.
Launch the plate into the server's trachea.
Right. Like they are.
He dies choking on his own broken trachea. The building's on fire. He's suddenly, these children don't have a father, and the mother's a widow. And 3, 5, 6 years go by, and now she's married. She's drunk, and she's married this abusive guy, and the kids are getting beat, and they resent everybody, and it turns into an episode of Jerry Springer, and the insurance company never paid out on the fire claim, and those people are ruined, and it's all analogous to the Snyder Cult.
Right. And the thing is, they're doxing the internet. Bullies, the internet Karens are doxing the wrong people. You're doxing, like, you know, the director for Sonic the Hedgehog. You should be doxing, you know, the leader of the Proud Boys and all these BS 3%er militias, not the dude that's making a movie. And don't follow your kids to school just because you don't like the new iteration of Luke Skywalker. You know, we found the kid, you know, like, come on.
Yeah.
You know, you're doxing the wrong people. Yeah, and that's the thing. I'm not saying you can't not like something. I mean, be dissatisfied because, you know, it's the consumers, it's our money that's going to buy these movies and buy the comics and stuff. And you have every right to dislike something. You don't have the right to sit here and flame people just to get what you want because you don't like it.
Never okay.
Yeah, never, absolutely never okay, especially when you start bringing innocent family members into it and you start doing unrealistic crap.
So, Mike, let me ask you
Yeah.
this. This is just what can be done, in your opinion, based on what you're seeing, to improve the discourse that happens online and in social media? Like, and I mean, that's a big thorny topic.
Yeah.
And it's not restricted to just comics. It's
No,
restricted. It's unrestricted, in fact.
Well, you can't be afraid of dialogue. You know, you can't be afraid of dialogue. Even if you don't agree morally, ethically, nerd-wise, whatever, you can't be afraid of dialogue. If you don't like a character in a comic, or if you don't like a certain cut of the movie, what have you, you got to have that civil dialogue, you know. And I'm talking about actual civil dialogue. I'm not talking about when someone, well, what if you're talking to a Nazi? No, I'm not talking about that. What I'm talking about is
punch the Nazi. That's
right. Yeah, always punch a Nazi. But if you don't like, say, Let There Be Carnage, you know, you don't have the right to sit here and dox Tom Hardy and out his kids, out his wife, find all this other crap just because you didn't like the movie. You know, that's a little too effing far, man. You know, and have that dialogue. Why don't you like the movie? Don't sit here.
And that's part of the problem. That's, I mean, this is a multifaceted problem, right?
Sure.
First of all, and I mean, I think foremost upon this is the internet affords anonymity.
There you go. Yeah.
And people are fearless. People will be dicks, right?
Mm-hmm.
They'll say things they would never say to somebody's face.
Never.
And that's just not going to change for a while. And I say that,
it's never going to
change. I mean, it could honestly take a generation or two even for standards of civility and just how to have discourse online to become like de facto defining behavior. Like, we just know, like, you know, when you walk into the grocery store that, like you were saying, if they're out of something on the shelf, you don't just like go and attack the clerk, right?
Right. They're trying to
throw the food at the waiter. Like, we know these things. It's just part of it. Now, of course, you know, some people think the rules like that don't apply to them, but they're the exception, not the rule. Mm-hmm. We're a long ways off with this new, really infant level social media and online discourse that we haven't codified standards and practices of behavior and socialization yet. And it's going to take a while. Sure. It's going to take whole generations of kids growing up and being like, man, this is bullshit. Why? What is this? And it's going to take, you know, the next Facebook or the next Twitter, whatever that may be, coming up with rules that they will actually abide by and enforce and for conduct.
Yeah. And the thing is, I think it takes, you know, kind of like, say, like our generation, you know, and I think I shared something like this on one of the social media platforms where, you know, we're kind of like the last generation to have, you know, no internet and dial-up.
Oh, absolutely.
Like that. And the thing is, you know, it kind of starts with the older folks, man. It starts with us. Because if we're not, and I'm not saying we got to referee shit online and stuff. I mean, that's not our job. But, you know, you can have discourse. You can not like something and completely flame on somebody.
Yeah.
So you don't like it. You know, you don't have to comment and share every thread or comment on Twitter.
Yeah, that's just it.
TikTok, Facebook. You know, pardon my French, but fuck, dude, scroll through.
Yeah.
Find something
you
else.
Don't have to react to every post you see.
Right. You know how
right. You know with like
left on Facebook because they're all LeBron fucking James, pardon my French, and we don't talk about actual basketball. I'm alone in the world because I don't want to talk about just LeBron James. So what do? I just scroll through, I leave the groups, I join other groups, and just go find something else to do. besides being an asshole on the internet.
Absolutely. You know, I have in probably the last 3 to 5 years really cultivated my Facebook profile in such a way that it's really only populated with people that I have positive interactions with.
Yep. Yeah.
Anybody else, I either unfriended them or just muted them.
Yeah, just
So
unfollow.
I never see their posts.
Yep, absolutely.
You know what? My time whenever I get on Facebook is very positive.
Yeah.
And that's cool.
Yeah.
And so we've got to be able to get around. The other thing too is on top of learning how to just simply be civil again and recognizing that civility online is a reflection of who we are as people and it needs to reflect our real world behaviors and identities, is we don't know how to have discourse.
Nope.
Like, and when I say discourse, I don't mean like you and I are doing where we're talking back and forth about the same thing, but I mean a civil discourse where we or whomever have differing opinions and we just talk about it and we ask questions about it and we don't make emotion and values judgments be the driving force behind that. Well, Mike liked Spawn and I don't like Spawn, therefore he sucks and he has less value than I do, and I'm going to tell him that. You know, or you know, something like that.
Right?
Like, no, we've got to be able to move past that. And you know, now I'm going to sound like an old man yelling at a cloud, but schools don't teach this.
Nope.
I don't know that they ever did, but God, they need to. Like, this is how you have a fucking conversation with somebody about opposing views without shredding one another to pieces just because you don't agree on something. So,
yeah, and I think, hold on, I'm sharing stuff here.
Do it.
Multitasking. No, and I think that's a good lesson. And I guess once again, that kind of, I mean, you know, our generation, you know, we're considered the old heads now.
Yeah.
You know? And so that's up to us to sit here and go, okay, you can dislike something and you can, you know, you can not be an ass about it, you know?
Yeah.
And no one asks a question, well, what don't you like about it? You know, if you say you don't like the Snyder Cut of Justice League, why don't you like the Snyder Cut of Justice League? If you don't like, you know, the regular Justice League, what don't you like about the Justice League movie? You know, it always bugged me, even as, you know, when I was younger, when someone says, oh, you know, Howard the Duck comics suck.
Yeah.
Well, why does Howard the Duck suck? He just does. Well, that's dumb. Like,
yeah, that's not a reason.
That's not a reason. Do you not like the art? Do you not like the premise? Do you not like the writing? You know, what is it about Howard the Duck that you don't like?
Steve Gerber left and it went to hell.
Yeah. Yeah. You know?
Subsequent writers didn't get it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You don't like this.
Okay. You know what though? I say that in jest, and that happens to be my stance up until Chip Zdarsky. But that's a reason.
Sure.
Right? Like, you sucks. That's juvenile,
you know?
man.
And I think, like I said, man, you know, we don't have dialogue anymore. You know, we really don't. We just, you know, we look at something and for like 30 seconds, oh, we don't like it. It sucks. Bye. Well, why? Where did you go? Let's talk about it. I want to talk about it. Like, why don't you like it? Like, or why do you love? You know, we're so quick to go, well, why do you love Jason Aaron's run on Avengers? A, B, C, D, E, F, G, da, da, da. Well, what don't you like about it? It sucks. What? Wait a second. Like, I don't get it, you know? But yeah, I honestly think because social media, and I'm going to sound like such an old dude.
Yell at that cloud.
Yeah, man. But I think we've become so dependent on social media that we rely on social media to kind of feed into our discourse, you know, and then that's the reason why we don't dialogue anymore. We're afraid of dialogue because we're so steadfast of I hate something that you're afraid of that argument that may turn your opinion around. And I think that's what people don't want. I don't think they want their opinions turned around, for better or for worse. And once again, I'm not talking about, Nazis and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about all that stuff. I'm not talking about the political side of stuff. I'm talking about the everyday discourse you see on social media about movies, about books, about comics, about everyday things, where people just, will just hammer on you, but they don't stay and talk about it.
Right.
We just don't have that dialogue anymore. And
if we ever did, I mean,
I think we did.
It's easy to fall into a nostalgia trap for the before times.
Mm-hmm.
And nostalgia is a very insidious drug, so I don't want to push it that far, Mike.
Sure.
But, bringing it all back around to the Snyder Cut cultists out there, they're just a subset of what we're really circling the wagons on here, and it's not going away anytime soon, because when you empower these type of people by capitulating to them and giving them what they want, they're just going to come back for more, i.e. #restore the Snyderverse.
Sure. Well,
and you know what? Now you're just screwed.
Sure. It also doesn't help that, what you mentioned earlier is that anonymity online, that you have some people that are creating multiple profiles just to start the BS.
Yeah.
So that doesn't help, and aside from being, internet Gestapo, you can't do nothing to regulate that. And you really can't do anything to regulate that without being Gestapo yourself.
Yeah.
So it's just it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't type of thing, really.
For sure. So, all right, man. Gosh, what else did we have this week, or this year? This year, time has no meaning anymore. Now we'll go on a tangent about COVID. That
may be a bad idea to talk about COVID.
Oh, that might, you're right, be a bad idea to talk about things that are bad ideas, like publishers called Bad Idea. It's these jokes write themselves.
Let's produce 5 comics and release them all in Connecticut and Florida.
Is the dumbest ass business plan I've ever heard in my life.
Right? The bad idea.
Like, credit where credit's due. 10 years ago, he was the mastermind behind the Valiant revival.
Yes.
There have been many happy returns since then.
Sure.
Now he is a monkey sitting on a pile of money, jerking off with mad glee, just because he can, because why the hell not? So if you haven't heard of Bad Idea Comics, and there would be good reason why you might not have.
Yeah. It's a bad idea.
It's a bad idea. So basically, they pick and choose a handful of comic stores around the country. What is it, Mike? Like 200 shops or some minuscule number like that?
I don't even think it's that high.
Yeah, it's a really dumb amount. These are the only shops that are eligible to order the comics from this company, I guess, direct. And and the whole thought process behind it is that making them scarce like this will drive up the craving for them because of the aftermarket. So that's dumb.
Yeah.
Because it clearly, somebody doesn't understand that the publisher gets jack shit of sales from the aftermarket. 2, that's dumb, because only a handful of people are actually going to read your product, which means you're not actually making the product for people to read. You're making the product to turn it into a collectible, which is
so basically I need to spend like $200-300 on an issue of a modern comic at a convention that, if it's not graded, I'm going to want to try to read. But then again, my mind's going, you just spent $200, $300, $400 on this comic. Do you really want to touch it with your greasy mitts?
No, you really don't.
M-I-T-T-S, not M-I-T-S. Thank you, Matt, for that, spelling lesson earlier. but the thing is, man, I get when, say, a shop or an online store gets a variant of a book, and they go, hey, we have 200-300 of this variant. Here's your opportunity to try to buy it. However, if you don't get this variant, you can still go to your comic shop and get the normal comic and still read the book. Fine. But what Bad Idea's doing is they're sitting here going, well, we're going to produce, the life of Matt #1, but it's only going to be in shops in Texas, Montana, Florida, and Vermont. And those shops are only going to get 50 copies or 25 copies. And so now when you go on eBay or you go on, Facebook Marketplace or secondhand selling shops or whatever, these comics are going for hundreds of dollars. And I'm here to tell you, if I'm going to spend coin on a book, it's going to be an absolute key issue. It's going to be something that I actually want for my collection. It's going to be a character that I adore or a team that I adore. It's not going to be from some company, kind of creating their own market. That's sleazy to me. That's really sleazy.
Absolutely.
Because release your book. That's fine. If you only want to give, 100 copies to comic shops, that's fine. But you want to give 10 copies of this variant to
or you're just a small publisher and maybe you don't have the money for mass distribution and you wind up being regional, something.
Sure. But don't sit here and go, oh, well, here's this really cool book. Oh, it's too bad. We're only going to release it in this one comic shop in Eugene, Oregon. Suck it, everyone else. And then everyone else is going, oh, I really got to have this $300-$400 book.
Yeah.
Who's going to buy it? These shops are going, oh, look at this. I got this great thing from Bad Idea. So do you want to spend your money on that? Or do you want to spend your money on Spider-Man 300? You know what I'm saying? Like, what do you want to spend that money on in your collection? It's your money. Do what the hell you want with it. I don't care. But, the name itself tells a story. Bad Idea.
Yes, it does.
Fucking Bad Idea. It's stupid.
Well, and it's frustrating, too, because there's talented creators making comics for this ding-dong.
Right?
Matt Kent, Doug Braithwaite.
I love Kent.
Robert Venditti, Juan Jose Rip. Freaking Adam Polina. Do you remember Adam Polina? They dug Adam Polina up.
Right.
Marguerite Bennett, Renato Guedes.
They got the names, man. And
Ed Wells. Like, these are good people that are...
Marketing-wise, it's genius. But overall execution is fucking stupid, pardon my French.
I don't even think it's a good idea in execution.
Execution-wise, as far as getting the names to bolster their scarce books.
Yeah.
Because think about it, if you really dig Matt Kent, right, and that's your dude, that's your collection, right? Like for me, anything that's like Scotty Young or Alex Ross, regardless if I
right
not, I'm going to buy the cover. I'm going to buy the book just because I enjoy their cover art. So if you have people that collect Matt Kent just because he's Matt Kent, and you want this book from Bad Idea, like, come on, dude.
He's got 2 books from Bad Idea.
Right.
Listen, that man, I hate and love Matt Kent because he's super freaking talented.
Yeah.
He will hop on any train possible to get money, though.
But and the thing is,
and you know what? Hey, get paid, dude.
Yeah.
Get paid. I'm all about it. But god dang, dude.
And the thing is,
you humped that NFT train you were making the second coming.
And the thing is, man, the dude is super talented, man. Who
is? Oh, it's so frustrating.
He's a writer. He's a writer that could.
Did you read Fear Case that he did?
Fear Case is great, man.
Yes.
Yeah.
Man, it made me feel like the type of thing that if Nick were here, Nick and I and you, we'd just be talking about Fear Case for a whole episode.
Wait a second, Nick?
That's Oh, let's talk about other things we didn't like in 2021. Like when people bail on us because they got jobs at Valiant. Like some kind of dude who lives the dream or whatever.
Yeah. I'm going to go deal with comics and do a food truck in Texas.
Yeah.
Jerk. But he's a lovable jerk. He's our lovable.
He is. He's our lovable jerk from East Texas.
Yeah. He's our Sheldon Cooper.
Oh my gosh. Listen, Mike, it's their Sheldon Cooper. Wow. Poor Nick. We should just like drop him the link in Slack and see if he jumps in. He's like, hey, you guys.
Yeah. Yeah, we got permission from the big boss man. He says you can talk to us again.
So, so I want to talk like I want to talk about one of my favorite writers, and he's really divisive, and he really has had a bad year. It's in most people's estimation, and that would be my man Brian Michael Bendis.
Okay. What's about old Bendis here?
Man, I got to tell you.
Yeah, lay it on me.
He never felt like the right fit for DC. And part of that is my own bias that, he spent 17 years at Marvel. Right. I'm accustomed to him being in that sandbox, right? I'm accustomed to him writing those characters and being in his voice. So there's a little bias there, but he just didn't quite feel like a good fit for DC's house style. And then, boy, he just pulled off some really smart stuff with Superman, and I'll always give him props for that. Yeah. And then his run just really ended abruptly at the end of 2020 so that they could clear the way for Future State and the stuff that was to come with Tommy Taylor and Philip Kennedy Johnson and all the Superman books. The Superman books this year have been top notch.
Yes, sir.
And since then, it's like Bendis himself has been really just at loose ends. Like, okay, Future State interrupted the story that he was telling that started with the Vent Leviathan, and they came out with his follow-up finally this year was the Checkmate miniseries, and man, it hit like with a thud. And his Justice League, I thought, started off decently with some good ideas, and then it just went nowhere. And and then he winds up taking his Jinx World properties with Mike Oming, and David Mack over to Dark Horse, which has always to me felt like a better fit. Sure. And I wish that's probably the best thing that has come out of the year for Mr. Bendis. And now he just started this Justice League versus Legion of Superheroes miniseries, and man, that first issue was so bad.
Yeah,
so bad.
I think,
and I just feel like, and you get this way with a lot of writers and or artists where you can recognize when they are running on fumes creatively, and maybe they need to take a break. Maybe they need to shift gears completely and downgrade and go back to what made them big, which in Bendis's case was some badass crime comics like Jinx and Goldfish and fucking Torso, and hell, even Powers, man. I mean, that's not black and white, but same vein. And I don't know. I think he's really burnt out on superheroes, but he doesn't know it, or at least not publicly.
Sure. And I think you kind of hit on that as when they, these guys that we kind of almost rely on to kind of put out blockbuster after blockbuster after blockbuster. And when it's not a quote unquote blockbuster, we're like, oh God, is this up to par? Is this up to snuff? We do it with writers, we do it with artists.
Sure.
And I think
musicians, yeah, I mean,
absolutely. But I think we kind of forget the fact that he kind of hit on it, like, these cats are burned out, man. I mean, because, by the time we get a book at the shop at our LCS, you know, the book to the creators could be a month, could be 2-3 months old, you know.
Mhm.
So they've, you know, they're like, oh well, I've done this with Superman, and we've done this, and I'm kind of like
Nick just
God,
hearted us on Twitter, so I think he might be listening.
who's that?
Nick, he just hearted us on Twitter, so he might have missed. Nick, if you're out there, comment.
Yeah,
We'll give you more crap.
yeah.
But go on. You had a beautiful soliloquy going.
Yeah. But no, I think in terms of, you know, and I'm absolutely guilty of this, because when I pick up, you know, something like, say, like a Bendis, you know, he's one of those guys where even if I don't necessarily read the book, I'm going to pick up at least 1 or 2 issues because I really enjoy his work. And you look at it and you go, God, this really isn't up to snuff, but you hit on it perfectly. Well, we don't take into consideration that they're probably burned out. They don't want to do superheroes anymore,
Right.
but because maybe there's contracts involved.
Right.
They're
Bendis is 3 years with DC. It ended last year.
Yeah.
So that was the end of his contract. And I mean, not long thereafter is when his Jinx World stuff went to Dark Horse, which is cool.
Right.
I mean, good for him. That's a good fit. And I think Dark Horse in general is a good fit for him. God knows Dark Horse needs some ponies in the stable right now after Jeff Lemire signed that exclusive deal with him. And he's taking all of Black Hammer with all the Black Hammer properties.
Talk about a kick in the nards, man.
Oh, I know, right?
If I didn't love Jeff Lemire so much, I'd be like, oh, but I'm, you know, and
he rarely misses.
It's one of those guys, man. You see me, if you see a Jeff Lemire book on the shelves and you're not picking up, you're kind of doing comics wrong.
Well, I do. You say that he does do a lot of miniseries.
He does
a lot of stuff with Lemire. I do wait for the trade just because I know, like the current Robin and Batman miniseries he did with Dustin Nguyen.
Okay,
I mean, I flipped through it. It's beautiful. I'm sure it reads like lyrical poetry, man. But at only 3 issues, like I'll get the trade, and it's cool. I'm fine with that. But point is, dude is talented.
Yeah.
And he's always doing something different.
Yeah.
Well, you know, one of the things with Bendis is a lot of his stuff in the last year, especially, started feeling noticeably samey.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, that's not a good sign, dude.
It's a burnout.
Not a good sign. It's a burnout.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, to tie this back to what we were talking about earlier with Jason Aaron, I think he might be burnt out too, but he's more or less the guy when it comes to writing anything not X-Men related at Marvel right now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, we talk about the artists and the creators getting burned out. You know, a little dark secret of mine. I mean, that's why I hang out on Kickstarter, because there's tons of non-superhero books that are great, that are fabulous, that are, you know, they're silent books. There's everyday books. You know, there's superhero books, but it's almost like, as much as I love Spider-Man, and that's going to be another show. If you want to do some trivia, Jack, we can go head to head on some Spidey stuff. You know, I saw the Twitter. I mean, if we need to do this,
are we gonna do all Spidey all the time next week? Is that what it's gonna be?
Yeah, you can be Ben Reilly. I'll be Miles Morales.
Oh! That was cold-blooded, man.
You can have your Spidey, but back to reality, there, Ben. You know, it's kind of like why not say why you go to Kickstarter. Let me not say that, but Kickstarter is great when you need that break from superheroes, from Spider-Mans, from the Supermans, from the Venoms, from whoever, from Thor. There is such a thing as burnout, and I think as fans, we don't take that into consideration. We'll take into consideration our burnout, but we won't take into consideration the creator's burnout. You know, I'm sure as Jason Aaron loves his job, I'm sure that he's going, I love working for Marvel, but yeah, okay, we'll do this.
I'm sure he would love to finish Southern Bastards someday,
right?
Or not have 7 freaking years between volumes of The Goddamned.
Right? Yeah.
But dude, he's clear. I bet you I'd be very, very, very willing to bet that Jason Aaron is the highest paid writer at Marvel whose name is not Jonathan Hickman.
You think he's higher than old D. Cates right now?
Yeah, because he's been there longer.
That's interesting. That could be a show unto itself.
Well, if we had the digits, yes, like the actual numbers, like is Donny Cates worth $500,000 a year? You decide.
You think we could contact Marvel? Dear Marvel, we want a podcast.
Please release your non-union independent contractors.
Can you connect us to your HR department?
We would love to just talk about it on our podcast.
How much do you pay your writers and your artists?
Tell us.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Man, I'll tell you another thing that really just kind of chapped my ass in 2021.
What grinds your gears?
It misrepresenting miniseries as ongoing series. I can't tell you the number of times I've been frustrated because I don't know, Ram V or Jeff Lemire or somebody I really like. Oh, they've got this new series coming out. Yeah. And then it gets 2 or 3 issues deep. And I see the solicits 3 months down the line. It's like, final issue of this miniseries. God dang it. I could have just waited for the trade on this.
Yeah.
Truth in advertising, people. I cannot stress this enough.
That's why advertising people get paid the big bucks, man. They lure us in. But
it's disingenuous at best. It's absolutely like I'm not one of these people that laments the fact that so much of the industry has turned towards miniseries.
Yeah.
Because I actually think it's great.
No, it's not great. It's horrible.
No. I think it's great from the perspective that it allows the industry to be more nimble and to reach more markets. Yeah. Really.
Well, if you take real quick, because I don't want to go off on a side tangent and tell you that you're completely wrong.
I'm not. Let's have a polite and meaningful discourse about it.
Let me eat my own word soup earlier from 20 minutes ago. No, I think, miniseries can be good, but I also think that too much of a good thing is overkill.
Well, yeah. I'm not talking about 100 comic miniseries tie-ins. That's not what I'm talking about.
Did in the summer. Mm-hmm. Like every big thing was a miniseries.
So
and it's
go ahead. I'm sorry.
I don't mind the miniseries, but not every event needs to be a miniseries. If you have plans to go 6 issues to tell me how awesome Carnage is and how crazy Carnage is and how psycho Carnage is.
You loved Absolute Carnage.
Though. I do, and I did, and I'm a sucker, and I will buy it every time. But the fact remains that just do the OG and just do a graphic novel of it. So just give it to me in one fell swoop.
They're never going to do that because you will not sell as many copies of that. Plus,
that's so aggravating.
You're not going to be able to charge as much. So here's where I'm coming from on that.
Yeah.
So in the last year, Marvel had a bang up year with miniseries. They had Taskmaster, Winter Guard, The Thing, which is currently going on right now, the current Kate Bishop suit. Like there was just a ton, a stupid amount of awesome miniseries that came out. But they were also marketed as miniseries. Right. And here's the thing: the market is not built anymore to sustain all of those types of characters in ongoing, indefinite forms, right? And if that's the case, fine. Just give me that one cool, really good story about God, who else did I read this year that was Kang? That's what, and Kazar.
Kang was good.
Or whoever. Yeah, both of those are. Well, Kang was fantastic. Oh my God. I did not expect to like that series nearly as much as I did. We have got to get Colin Kelly and Jackson Lansing on this show.
Yeah.
But those were marketed as miniseries, and it was great.
Mhm.
Well, it's actually a lot of the smaller publishers like Boom or whomever out there who will be like, we have the newest Cy Spurrier comic, and then it turns around as, oh, Alienated's only going to be 6 issues. That sucks because I'm in love with this concept and I want more of it and I want more of this world. Again, just tell me the thing I want to know.
Right. Well, and that goes back to where, you know, as a fan of anything symbiote,
Yeah.
I know what's going to happen. I know the premise of it. Now we just got to fill in the pieces with art and great story and yada yada yada. But and this kind of maybe, what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of contradicting, but with the smaller publishers like Vault, Source Point Press, you know, Black Caravan, stuff like that, we know that we're getting 1 to 3, 1 to 4, 6 issues of a series. You know, AWA loves to have.
Well, yeah, I mean, like AWA, Ahoy,
Right.
They're built on miniseries. Like,
right.
Don't expect anything, or Aftershock. Don't expect an ongoing series from them. I mean,
that's fine. But it drives me crazy when, you know, oh, the next big event from Marvel, da 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 da. Well, wait a second. The next big event happened 3 months ago. I know this because I think previews and it tells me it's the next big event. So just stop with the 6 issues of Carnage is the most dangerous villain ever, and just give me the stupid graphic novel already. Like,
if I may say,
yeah,
I think, and this is a little off topic from where we were, but
okay,
I would be a lot more tolerant of the constant barrage of quote unquote event story type miniseries if they stood on their own, right? And they weren't just sucking all the other comics in the line into their narrative.
Right.
And, right? That would be great.
Right. Because the thing is, it's like with, you know, Absolute Carnage, you not only have Absolute Carnage 1 through 6, but you have Absolute Carnage Captain America 1 through 4, Absolute Carnage Iron Fist 1 through 2, Absolute Carnage The Avengers 1 through 8, Absolute Carnage X-Men, Absolute Carnage Krakoa 1 through 13, Absolute Carnage, you know, Spider-Man Miles Morales meets Ben Reilly for a picnic snack in you know, Grant Park
and a misunderstanding fight, I'm sure.
Right, you know, and it wouldn't be an issue if Marvel would just go, you know, we're gonna do this miniseries 1 through 6, with no tie-ins,
and let it be right. God, the King in Black tie-ins seem like endless.
And, oh my God, between King in Black and the Absolute Carnage tie-ins, you
know what? Let's tie it back a little bit more to King in Black, just because it was 2021.
Yeah.
God, the tie, like, just the constant soaking of fans' wallets with these tie-in miniseries and hyping them up as, oh my gosh, this is a crucial part of the story, blah 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 blah, and then it's not.
Yeah,
and we're just left with this feeling like, wait a minute, God, what? Oh, it was Empire, which was 2020 and 2021, I think, early 21. So it counts. I know when the checklist of tie-in comics came out, like between the miniseries and the tie-in issues of regular monthly books, it was like 80 comics.
Yeah.
It was absurd. And I mean, back a few years ago, War of the Realms was the same way.
Yeah, like, everywhere.
Y'all need to stop because
Fire was another
are too expensive for you to be shoveling this crap at people.
Yeah. And
tell the story. And if you don't have enough faith in that story and the strength of that story alone to carry its weight, then you might want to consider not telling that story.
Right. Now, I will say this and write this down because I'm getting ready to go.
Oh, I'm going to write it down.
I'm getting ready to go pro X-Men on you here. I will say the one thing since Hox Pox that I've enjoyed on X books is that they're not everything. Don't get too crazy now. But I do enjoy how they have kind of contained all of their side stories in one little bubble, you know? So you don't have to go too far. Like Marauders, really good story. Hellions, really good story. So you don't mind getting 1 or 2 issues of this book because it's a good story. Even the regular books is a good story. We're getting that with Captain America Visits New York, Absolute Carnage 1 through 4. We've heard that story before. It's effing boring.
And then what does it say about, does it tell me anything new about Captain America?
And it really isn't. No, because we know all those tie-ins for like King in Black and Absolute Carnage. Like we know, like, oh, Captain America is fighting against Spider-Man and Carnage with Venom. Well, we saw that in Venom 28 and Absolute Carnage 3.
Yo, that was like 2 panels.
Right. Why do we need 3 books of Captain America fighting against Carnage when we're going to read that in the regular Venom and then we're going to read that in the Carnage miniseries? You know, and it's a mess, you know? And I really think if Marvel would kind of take a chunk out of the X line, if you will, and kind of contain their miniseries, I think that, you know, and we got off a little kilter here, but, you know,
No, we're bitching about things we didn't like in 2021.
You know, and
we've never been more on kilter.
But the thing is, man, I just don't get it because you look at all the X titles and they're neat. They're in the same room. You don't have to go far. And every book that they mention is a good story on its own.
Yes.
None of the tie-ins.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Black, none of the tie-ins for all of the regular series that they did all summer made any damn sense. They were just like, oh, hey, wait a second. Like you said, let's dig deeper into the pockets of the comic nerds who are going to buy this book anyway because they're Captain America.
And it's bullshit for the retailers too.
Yeah.
Because Marvel has weird return policies.
Yeah.
Where you have to order, I think it's the second issue before you know what you're going to sell on the first or something weird like that. If you know better or somebody knows better, please correct me. So what ends up happening is because they don't know what's going to sell with the first given issue of something, they order all of this stock of that they don't need.
Yeah.
And that problem becomes magnified when you're talking about all of these superfluous tie-in miniseries. And or the opposite happens and your LCS under orders trying to circumvent that problem.
Yep.
And then maybe you wanted that comic for whatever reason, you know? Maybe you're just really into the whatever, no shade. But now you can't find it because your retailer, trying to protect his own bottom line, just saved his own ass a little bit.
Sure.
And, you know, it's a no-win situation, and it's really abusive towards retailers, and I think it takes advantage of fans in a really negative way. And when you look can compare that to Image, for example, or Boom, or any of these other publishers that act in a really responsible manner towards both retailer and consumer, that's the model you really ought to be striving for. But, you know, Marvel and DC, they're the big two. They're owned by giant corporations. There are IPs to protect, yada, yada, yada. And, you know, it's just... it's not okay. So I want to keep us moving. We're a little over an hour. There was maybe 1 or 2 more things we really wanted to get into. No, there wasn't. We ran out of things, Mike. I guess the rest of the year was just perfect.
I won't say
but
perfect.
I didn't know it wasn't. I think the biggest thing possible, and this really was beyond people's control. And it was pandemic related, but God, just the crazy ass shipping schedules this year.
Man.
You know, that's been so hard on so many retailers because they might wind up because books have to get pushed back or rescheduled for real reasons, right? Like legit reasons. The paper shortage is real.
Yeah. Well, the big thing is what comes to mind first and foremost is the Matt Rosenberg's book, The Farthest Place from Here.
Yes.
He had this big thing where each issue was accompanied by a 45.
Yeah.
With tracks
and a record, not a gun.
Right. Yeah. Yes. Definitely. Well, bunch of militia people just got
free guns for everybody.
On the lids.
Comical book
lids. But no, and I remember seeing his posts on Facebook and Twitter and social media and stuff, where he was like, well, yeah, shipping is weird. We don't know if shops are getting it, and then other creators were following suit, where you saw on social media where creators were tweeting and going on Facebook going, well, if your shop didn't get the book and whatever book, let me know, let us know, post here so we can find out, because there was times where they didn't know what shops were getting what books, and then I think it was actually both Ben Bishop and Kevin Eastman that posted when they got their exclusive Last Ronin books, a whole shipment from FedEx was destroyed by the time it got to them.
Oh, wow.
Like, not one single book was salvageable, So, I mean, it was like, and you had all these pre-orders that were no longer pre-ordered. You had all these exclusives that were exclusively trash because they just didn't make it, and it was horror stories that were just, it kind of makes you wonder, like, well, what is happening? Is it the frustration of the workers? Maybe they're overworked and maybe they're understaffed. So it kind of adds a little flavor. Maybe COVID. It's one of those COVID things. How maybe COVID is not just getting people sick. Maybe there's a strain. Maybe there's a strain on shipping.
Yeah, but, I mean, it's everywhere, man. Supply chain jacked up. I mean, it's an accumulation of all this different stuff, and it's led to. And I mean, look, if you or I have to wait an extra 2 or 3 weeks to get a comic for some legit, whatever. That's I can wait. But it sucks that it hurts small business owners.
Sure.
And that's I hope we start to move out of the pandemic this year.
Sure.
And get back to some level of what a new normal will look like.
Yep.
And I mean, for a ton of reasons.
And also, I think, we're sad that we don't get, the special edition of a book or something like that. But, we also got to take into consideration that, you didn't get your special edition, you didn't get your special cover or whatever have you, but the shop didn't get it. So if the shop didn't get it, that takes away from possibly their monthly bills.
Absolutely. It makes it that much harder to keep the lights on.
Right. And I think that, goes along with the discourse that we talked about earlier in the show, that as nerds, as fans, whatever you want to label us as, I think going forward, and until all this stuff gets kind of under control and we figure out what normal is going forward, that we kind of just need to slow down and kind of look outside of our own circle, outside of our own bubble. Yeah, you may have not gotten, Superman 185, the die cut chromium, cover, whatever. But you also got to realize your comic shop didn't get it. So that's taken away from their bills and
their bottom line.
Open. Right. So that's taken, that's extra shit that you don't see and may not recognize. And I think going into the new year, I really think that people need to stop and kind of, and not really look at self, but kind of look at the world in general,
Yeah,
and
most
see how,
definitely.
and kind of see, like, kind of step out of your own thing. And like, I get it, you're inconvenienced because you can't read your comic, but if you can't read your comic,
Go piss up a robe. This person has a business they're trying to keep open that
right,
is their livelihood.
like your comic shop.
Sorry, dude. Like, yeah, I 110% agree with what you're saying there, Mike.
Yeah, absolutely.
Gosh, there's so many other points to make, but
Yeah. Are you yawning?
no, I'm not. This last 2 years. Shut up, Mike. The last 2 years have been such an emotional roller coaster and dumpster fire for so many people.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I mean, honestly, like, we're sitting here cutting up and joking and talking about, well, we didn't like the fact that Wonder Woman has pants again. Bah. And
Why is there so many women out there? Why are so many women in Wonder Woman comics?
yes, but I mean, look, like, there's been real people out there suffering and losing their place to live, losing their job, losing their family members, I should say. And I mean, just the fact that we're in a position that we can have this type of conversation
Yeah,
comfortably,
sure.
like, it really goes a long way towards reflecting on just how fortunate we are
Sure.
compared to a lot of other people. And so, of course, we throw this out there, and it's not to try to minimize the real world stuff that's going on, because there's serious stuff going on.
Sure,
You didn't, Mike, we didn't even talk about the ever quickening drift towards autocracy in this country.
Woo,
I mean,
next week.
listen, maybe next week on a Friday with lots of alcohol.
It could
And
be doom and gloom.
when did the comic watchers show become so political?
Yeah.
It always was political. You just weren't paying attention.
Right. Yeah.
But things are gonna get better, Mike. I have to believe it.
Yeah.
I have to believe it. Spider Jerusalem said it best when he said the future is an inherently better place.
Mhm.
And it is,
Mhm.
until we make it not so. But
Right.
then that's when the future becomes the present. And there's always an opportunity for tomorrow to be better. I know that's super cheesy, but it's true.
Well, it
And
goes back,
look, 2021 as compared to 2020 was like the best year ever. It
right?
was rainbows and puppies compared to 2020. So
Well,
anyway.
the thing is, it goes back to what we talked about, in the beginning of the show, man. You can't be afraid of the dialogue. You can't be afraid of the uncomfortable dialogue. Don't be afraid to sit here and hear something new. And once again, I'm not talking about sitting down with like Nazis and dumb people like that.
No, you punch Nazis.
Yeah, you always punch Nazis, but you can't, sit down with someone that doesn't like something that you do, or something that you like that they don't like, and talk about it. Don't sit here and flame on them. Learn why they like it, learn why they don't like it, and you may learn something. I'm not saying you have to sit here and undo your opinion. If you don't like Thor, you don't like Thor. But don't
doesn't like Thor.
You never know. But don't kick someone in the nuts and throw mud on them because they like Thor. Learn why they like Thor, and teach them why you don't like Thor. That's the big thing, man. That's how things are going to get better. We can't be afraid of dialogue. We have to have that uncomfortable dialogue.
Absolutely, because that's the only way that we can learn to understand each other.
No, yeah, absolutely. And you ain't got to like each other.
No.
You don't have to have a beer with them, but to understand where they're coming from, you have to listen to them.
Absolutely. So, quick shout out to our sponsors. We've got
Yes, two of our sponsors,
Frankie's Comics and Carson's Corner and Lemon Juice, and they are Lemon Juice McGee.
Yes.
God, that was so bad. But you know, they help support the site. They throw their ads up on the site. You know, thank you to them. Other thing I really want to put out there, Mike, is our friend Cody White. He's going through a pretty tough personal time right now, and you know, it's not my tea to spill, but Cody, buddy, we're here for you. We love you, man, and you know, we're here for whatever you need right now.
Yeah.
So you know, just let us know.
And I will say this about Comic Watch as a whole. And I will say that, you know, I don't think anyone, I think only maybe a few people have actually met, you know, in person. I think like Derbs and Cody have met in person. I think you and Nick met in person.
No, it never happened. I still have a long box full of free comics for him.
Oh,
he has a box full of Comic Watch swag for the rest of us. So again,
only I think Derbs and Cody have met, but
as I know,
never so.
Oh no, Nick, Miriam, and Gabriel.
Gabriel
Comic-Con last year.
Right. But never disavow the people that you just talked to online. Because I know
your friends.
And absolutely. And I will say this on live that, you know, me and you have talked about some personal stuff. Me and Cody have talked about some personal stuff. And the stuff has helped me definitely through some rough times and stuff. So, you know, Comic Watch, and I'm going to say it again, I'm going to kind of go off on a little tangent here, that all we do is volunteer. No one at Comic Watch is getting paid for this stuff. So we're always talking about comics. We're always talking to each other about comics and other dumb stuff. Not saying that comics are dumb, but just, you know, just jokes and whatever. And we're always kind of, you know, poking fun at each other. But however, we do trust each other enough to kind of share some deep stuff. You know? And I for one,
I mean, that's what you do with your friends, man.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. And Cody, man, we've talked to you on Slack, and I'm sure you're going to read this. Like Matt said, you know,
he's on that Hawaii time.
Yeah, definitely. It's like 2 in the morning in Hawaii.
It's not 2 in the morning, dude. It's like 2. It's like 3:30 in the afternoon.
Yeah, he's just now waking up. But no, in all seriousness, you know, Comic Watch is a family, you know, and I'm super appreciative of everything. And yeah, man, Cody, you know, man, just nothing but big hugs and good vibes.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah. Well, thank you for listening to our random babbling for the things we didn't like in 2021. I mean, I think, Mike, all things taken with equal measure, we had a lot more positive things to say than we did negative. And I think
we did. Yeah.
I think that says a lot about us as men. And
sure, we'll go with that. We'll
go in tights. And and there's kids out there that are too young to even know what that reference is for, man.
Right? Yeah.
Oh man.
But
we'll be back next week, same bat time, same bat channel. Thank you all so much for listening. I'm Matt, and this is Mike, and we are the Comic Watchers, and this is our show. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.